Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all well. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to get that classic old school soul sound. We're going to use some fairly basic chord shapes here, a very simple chord progression, but you're going to learn how the soul masters would add really cool embellishments, licks and fills within these chords to get that classic old school sound in place. Here's the track, let's get going. So there's three chords in this progression. It's a classic 1, 4, 5 in E. So we're using the E major, A major and B major chords. But those shapes don't really give us much room for adding embellishments and color to the chords. So we'll change it up a little bit. For the E major, we'll use this shape, root position E major chord. For the A major, we're playing this one. It's a first inversion A major triad. And then on the B major, we'll play this. Second inversion, B major triad. So let's take a look at the shapes and why we're using them. So the E major is a root position shape here. The A major is a first inversion shape here. And the B major is a second inversion shape up here. So you can see the E major as being kind of a block of triads. We've got a root third fifth on the A, D and G strings. We can also see it as a first inversion triad on the D, G and B strings. And then finally we have this second inversion triad up on the G, B and E strings. So three blocks of triads. Now within that shape we can get so much color just by playing the B to the C sharp on the G string. So that's going from the 5 to the 6, the 5th to the 6th sound. And when we get to the D string, we do the same thing, frets 4 to 6. That's a second to a major third. So those are some classic embellishments you'll sound on that shape, and they always sound great. And on the A chord, the embellishments are very similar. We can play the 2nd fret to the 4th fret of the G string. That's the root to the 2nd or the 9th. And then on the D string, we go frets 2, 4 again. That's the 5th to the 6th. Cool sounds, really easy to use. And then up on the B chord, we could use embellishments on the B and E strings, fret 7 on the B string to fret 9 on the B string. Again, that's the 5th to the 6th. And it's always good to play these in double stop shapes as well. It just thickens the sound and really gives you more color. And then we can do the same thing if we go to frets 6 and 7 on the G and B strings and hammer on from frets 6 to 8 on the G string, giving us intervals of the 9th and the 3rd. Now what you find with these things is you can play the hammer-ons slowly or quickly. And if I speed things up. Now playing them quickly is more of a challenge because the hammer-ons are what's called grace notes. We don't really want to hear the first note that long. We're really aiming for the 2nd note. So experiment with those and just get used to how it sounds and the color you get from the slower hammer-ons and the fast hammer-ons. Okay, let's take a look at the parts I played. So we start off on the 1 chord, the E. And we separate at the low part of the triad, followed by a stab on the high part of the triad. So the low strings to the high strings, classic soul device. It sounds like this. So when you do the stab on the top, just take the pressure off the G, B and E strings as quickly as you can, and that's how you get that chord stab in place. And those are the embellishments that we've just seen. Just play with those quick hammer-ons, those grace notes. And with this kind of playing, you can do a call and response thing. So take the first thing you play and then kind of play it in the opposite direction. So it's like a down followed by the up. Here's the two parts. And then the next time around the one chord. So the cool thing about this style and using these shapes is how much variation you can get from just those simple hammer-ons and those notes on the D and the G strings. Here's that part slowly. Now, one of the things about playing these parts the right way is to try and work from the chord shape itself as much as you can. So we're not going to be releasing too many fingers because it means that we can go back to certain parts of the chord for the stab or for the embellishments on certain strings. Okay, we're going to move to the A chord next. So we're down to this shape. And here's the part that I played. So we can play most of that with the index finger bar across the second fret of the D, G and B strings, basic open A major chord. But we also bring the third degree of the chord on the fourth fret of the A string. And again, those embellishments are on the G and the D strings. So here's that part slowed down. Now, a large part of getting this style to work and sound right is the staccato element, taking the pressure off the fingers, off the notes. As soon as you've played some of the notes, it just grooves a lot better that way. You don't want to sustain things too long. Let's take a look at it again. So you can hear there are some places where the notes and chords sound better sustained, and others where you're just going to play staccato and get rid of the note, get rid of the chord straight away. And then we're going to move back to the one chord shape, this one up here. And we just ended that phrase, which is very similar to the opening phrases, with a little walk down frets 6, 4 on the D string to fret 7 on the E string. Then we move up to the 5 chord, B. And again, it's chord, stab. Then the embellishments on the G string. And that's a really Hendrix type embellishment, the double stop on the G and the B. Going down to the root note, fret 9 of the D string with the 4th finger. And in this kind of rhythm, the 6/8 feel, those faster hammer-ons, those grace notes, just kind of work a lot better because it keeps you in that 6/8 groove all the way through, rather than extending things out too far. Then next, we're going down to the 4 chord, the A, and again, chord stab. And this time we start with the embellishment on the E and B strings at the 5th fret, hammering on fret 5 to 7 on the B string. And then we do the same embellishment we did on the B string, just 2 frets lower. So it's 4 and 5 for the double stop, that's on the G and the B. Hammering onto the 6th fret of the G string. And then we do the same embellishment we did on the B chord, just 2 frets lower. So it's down here, frets 4 and 5. Hammering on 4 to 6 on the G string, whilst keeping the 5th fret of the B string fretted. And then finally putting the 4th finger on fret 7 of the D string, that's the root of the chord, the A. But trying to keep the 2nd and the 1st fingers in place all the way through. And then finally back to the 1 chord again. But this time we'll do a slide as the embellishment. That's the 4th fret on the G and B, sliding up 2 frets and down again. And then another of these kind of little walking movements. We're going to walk up just into this E triad shape. Frets 4, 6, and the triad. And then closing. Like that. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed that lesson. Plenty more on the way. Come and join me on Patreon. We can get all my lesson resources on everything else I've done for soul, country, Americana, fingerstyle blues, tons more. There's loads of lessons there for you. Grab that all at the description below, and I'll see you next time.